iniquity. Love created I and I. Look how many prophets try to open our eyes. You can't fool me. Cut 'em away, cut 'em away, cut 'em away. You can't fool me. No.
Talking the things this morning. You got Marcus Teacher, Augustin Rhythm, also known from the late great Robert Nesta Marley tune called Jaliv. That's where it's where it stemmed from. For some who don't know, the Jaliv children, yes. All right, but good people, inside of Vibe 103 right now, dealing with it. You know, I did make mention that we do have a representative of the Bermuda Freedom Alliance here, Eugene.
Greetings.
All
Give
right.
thanks.
I was waiting for it. I said your name. I was thinking it's like, all right, they'll speak back to me. Yes. I also have in here Mel, as she was preferred to be called Mel this morning. I'm gonna say Melanie, and we're just gonna get it out of the way now. I'm gonna say Melanie and get it out of the way. From now it's Mel. All right. So you know what I'm talking about. Yes. A health professional, and I also have Sophia. Good morning.
Grand rising to you.
Okay, you all hang together. Because that's something he would say to me in a WhatsApp. You know what I mean? I wake up in the morning, Gene hit me up, Grand Rising, brother. I'm like, okay, good morning, Gene. How you doing? All right. Yes, and there are a few things that we are here to discuss this morning. And you were here last week, Gene.
Yes, we were here with Mish.
Misha, yes, you were here with Misha, yes, Mish, and you were just she was talking about, you know, the
industry is that there was a call out or a cry to government to say, you know, can we have more collaboration? Can there be more discussions that are held before mandates are put down because of the various impacts associated with the mandate? So it's interesting. I've spoken to some people in the industry, and you know, the weather's really nice. So what they're saying, everybody wants to eat outside now anyway.
Yeah, I mean, al fresco to the thing. Let's be honest. Let's be 100% al fresco to it.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And then, you know, also we're hearing now that apparently as of June 6th, and now the press conference that was slated for Tuesday is now slated for this evening. That's my understanding. Is that it's at the moment, unless there are changes, you know, the safe key is meant to be removed as of June 6th, which is the date when we go into this phase 3 scenario. So anyway, if there are any updates to that, but so far from the discussions that we've had with people in the industry, there hasn't really been any policing or really real management of the safe key from the health department or the government so far. And so, you know, there are people who are coming with the safe key. But one of the things that was interesting was the event that was held on Bermuda Day. And that event went through a number of phases. As someone, you know, who's been involved with Bermuda Day historically for a number of years now, our company has always been the audiovisual provider for the parade.
Yeah.
And so we were reaching out when this concept first came down the line. And initially, you know, it was designed for just essential workers only. And then it was announced that it was going to be the safe key measures in place, where obviously if you had the COVID-19 jab, you would have access. If not, you had to have a negative test within 3 days to get in and things of that nature. And then it was interesting because, you know, the day before the event, all of a sudden it was opened up to the broader public.
The day before.
The day before the event, it was all of a sudden now it was made available to anyone in the public could attend. And what we learned from that is because it was recognized that no one wanted, they weren't getting the numbers that they anticipated, at all.
Was that because of the rules in place?
Well, yeah, it appears that that's the case. And I know that, our company didn't get involved in the project specifically because of the rules. We were unwilling to, put our staff in a position where they even had to disclose their status or take tests or things of that nature. And when I saw what was happening with the event, I just started to call a lot of the people that we normally work with on Bermuda Day.
That you collaborate with, yeah.
And they were all saying the same thing. Some of them actually even had signed up to participate. And then when realizing all the regulations that were put in place, they started to feel really concerned about it. And they ended up pulling out. So it was interesting watching it because there were very few people who participated as vendors and very few people who came. From the images, it was streamed live, and anytime it went to the crowd, it was just very few people in there. So anyway, it appears that loud and clear, there were concerns from the community about the safe key, and I know there was a statement in the paper where the minister was saying that, he appreciates that the numbers were low. However, it's a sign that the country is taking baby steps to getting back to normal, which could have some validity. What's interesting is that beaches, parks, and various communities were buzzing with action on the day, and it looked like people had no problem being normal in those environments.
I'm just saying, don't be a dry snitch right now.
What's that? No, but that's just the truth. And so what it is, and I'll say this, and I'll bring this up now, is that the environment that we're in right now is very intense. It's very difficult. People have sentiments. I've been speaking with a lot of the media and saying, listen, there's an agenda being driven on the community. And although you're not hearing cries in the public domain from the community, people are very concerned. And people are afraid to express their concern for any number of reasons. So now what you have in the community is this bubbling underneath the surface. And my concern is that breaking through into, above ground, and then all the unintended consequences that come with that. And what I've said to the media is like, you don't have to be concerned with people like me, because people like me come forward and engage conversations. We'll talk to you. I'll talk to you, regardless of how you feel, I'm actually interested to understand views. What I'm finding that there is very little interest in people understanding how people I represent feel. And that's where you have this bubbling in the community. What you need to be concerned of is the people who are unwilling to talk or are unable to talk, people who don't have patience or diplomacy. That's what we need to be concerned of as a country, because next thing you will start to see actions that are considered very unsociable.
Are you talking about from the community?
From the community. And then you have huge problems, but because that's what happens when you have bubbling. So it's even like within your family, if you have a scenario where people are getting upset and you're looking at it and saying, okay, this is going to boil over. Maybe I need to organize something so we can have a conversation. Because next thing you know, then, all sorts of untoward behavior starts to emerge. And that's what we need to be concerned about. So
just to ask a question real quick, Gene.
Right.
Do you think with those, I want to say there's issues in sight, do you think with those things that may be able to happen, those scenarios that can happen, do you think they're being looked at from the side of the government as well?
I'm not sure. And
I mean, that's the question, because right now, what you're saying does hold a lot of, it's solid. It's solid. But the question is, do you think, with, with the community, with things bubbling up and people are about to tip over, do you think that is being looked at maybe this could be looked at differently, or maybe you can hear the voices of those who have the
concern. Well, it it would be great. I would love to see an initiative from the government to actually listen to what people's concerns are and to engage those who have come to the forefront to represent those concerns in real conversation, to develop understanding. It's not necessarily about agreeing. We can disagree. I can still understand you.
You want to be heard, and
it's to be understood.
Let me know that you hear my voice.
Exactly.
Right.
So I say, Chubb, you know what? I understand where you're coming from. I don't necessarily agree with what you're saying. However, I can relate to you feeling that way based on the things that you have expressed.
Showing empathy.
And as a result, maybe we can start to look at doing things a bit differently. Right? That's all anyone's really looking for. And this is not a Bermuda issue. This is an issue that's happening all around the world. Because what you're seeing in countries are doctors or medical professionals, lawyers, community leaders, all sorts of people are speaking out and pushing back. Unfortunately, the only platform that most of these people have are social media platforms, chat groups. Those are the same environments that so-called official media say are not necessarily credible.
No, well, they can be very toxic.
They can be. However, if the official media, so I'll give you this example, right? And then we can let the ladies give some contribution to the conversation.
People, hold on 1 second, Gene. Hey, people, Gene was really supposed to be warming up, right? He's going from the warm up, he's going from early warm to the heat of the dance to cleanse, and I'm like, hey, ladies, just sitting there. I forgot you was even here for a second. Go on there, Gene. I'm sorry. My bad.
Don't forget us.
Don't forget him.
For real. No, we won't. I would say this. So, one of my best friends lives in London, right? I contacted him over a month ago to tell him about a protest that had tens of thousands of people in London in it. He wasn't even aware of that protest. After that protest, there was another protest with even more people outside of the British Broadcasting Company protesting against them because they feel that they are not honestly, right, actually sharing information about what's actually going on. They're only sharing one side. Do you believe that a protest with tens of thousands of people outside, a sea of people outside of the offices, never made it to the news? It never made it. They were actually outside and it never made it to the news. Again, I'm having to tell my friend who lives in London that this is happening. So this is the challenge that we're having at the moment with the media. And this is what I'm talking about. You have this bubbling in the community that can erupt, that will erupt if it's not addressed. And that's the concern. So it's all this so people are concerned about all these discriminatory mandates. People are concerned about the pressure being put on them from government, from the media that's transcended down to people in the community, the family. All of this pressure is coming and no one is listening to people's concerns. So I appreciate the fact that we're allowed to be here. This has become one of the only outlets available for people to speak. So give thanks for that.
You're welcome, Gene. Now, as we're moving on to what we were discussing, it was more about the healthcare side of things. Like I wanted to, the reason these ladies are inside of Vibe 103 right now. Sophia, good morning again, and Mel.
Good morning.
Remember what you said about that Mel bit, right? That was it. That was we ain't gonna do the whole name no more. We ain't doing that no more. No, we're not. Yes. If I'm not mistaken, I'm gonna start with you, Mel, because you're here first. So he was first. We're discussing. You are a health professional, and if you wouldn't mind just letting the people hear what you specialize in. What is your if you don't mind doing that this morning.
Okay. Well, I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
Yes.
So I specialize in holistic medicine.
Okay.
And I use a number of modalities to assist me in that. one being homeopathy, another being yoga, and I also do Reiki, which is an energy medicine.
I'm sorry, what's it called?
Reiki.
Oh, I just said reggae. I just said reggae. I just said reggae. That's what I initially I was like, okay, I like that. Okay.
And, music therapy.
Yes, okay.
Yes, dance therapy.
It works.
That all comes under the umbrella of holistic medicine.
Proper.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
So yes, I mean, I've been in this industry for 23 years, and well, I've helped lots of people. But the main thing that I want to get across is that it's not what I do, right? It's about people having a desire to heal, people having an issue, usually a physical issue, but sometimes an emotional issue, sometimes a spiritual issue, and recognizing where they are out of balance in their whole self, in their complete self, and they seek help. Typically, people go to an allopathic doctor, a conventional doctor, and they get medicine, they take it, they get better, or they don't. Yeah. But if they're seeking a more holistic way of treatment, they'll come to someone like me, or to Sophie, or to an acupuncturist, or to a dietitian, or, you know, there are many modalities that they can use in order to help their problem. So the point is that it's important for people in a state of dis-ease, or with a sickness or an illness or a diagnosis, however you want to look at it. And it's complicated, right? But it's for them to start to understand that it's their issue, that they can help with the right tools. And the tools are external to them. So, you know, we really have to start, we are worthy of understanding differently now. And that's what this pandemic situation has brought up for me.
Okay. Because
Right?
it has brought the best, and it's brought a lot of bad out of this too. So what, can you like just elaborate a little bit more about how that's brought it out of you?
How that's brought it out for
Yeah,
me.
that, what's the pandemic brought out?
Okay, so, well, it's made me realize that we are afraid. You know, we've been thrust into this position of being afraid.
Well, there's the uncertainty.
Well, so this is the question: what are we afraid of? If I say we're afraid, so then I say, well, what are we afraid of? What are we afraid of? We're afraid of a virus. We're afraid of getting in trouble. We're afraid of losing our freedoms. We're afraid of all these things external to ourselves. And we're afraid of those things because we're afraid to change, ultimately. Right?
Human nature, I believe.
Yes, absolutely human nature. So we're afraid to change because we're afraid of the unknown, essentially, is what it is. Because the virus is unknown. The losing of freedoms is unknown. We've had our freedom, or so we think. We've had our freedom. If we lose that, what's next? Right? But all of those things are in the future. We haven't even encountered those yet. We're not sick yet, but we're afraid to get sick. But we're not sick. We're healthy. And why is that? Because we're afraid of, you know, we have experience of the past. So, you know, essentially people get stuck in the past, or they get stuck about the unknown of the future. But actually all we have is right now. We only have the present. So if, take the fear of the virus, I'm not sick yet, I'm healthy now. Well, what can I do to maintain my healthy status? Rather than, I'm going to get sick, I'm going to get sick. If you're thinking, I'm going to get sick, you will get sick.
So as a
on
man
some
thinketh,
level.
so shall it be. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'll take you to some scriptures real quick.
Well, thank you, because I can't do that bit.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. I wasn't
can't
saying
do the
nothing about it. I was
scripture
just like, you know what I know. It's what I know. It's what I know.
Perfect.
It's inbred in me. I'm sorry. Go on, Dan.
It's called collaboration.
Yes, there you go. That's what it sounds like to me too. Yes.
You know, so let's be with what we have. But then, so we're there with what we have. But then, external to us again is this influence, this suggestion, this coercion. You know, what shall I do? Well, I'll listen to this external pressure or this external suggestion to do these things. But I'm not even sure if I want to do those things. But I've been told I have to do those things in order not to be in a state of fear. But that's not necessarily the case, because then you get into another unknown state of being.
I'm gonna say what you're saying sounds a bit like what Jean was saying, as far as hear my voice,
Yes.
hear my plight, hear
Yes.
what I'm concerned about. You know what I mean? Now, for those who may not be saying that, who just need the relief of just everything that's going on, because there's so much going on, like, you know what I mean. And as you are a health professional, you know what I'm saying, you deal with dealing with people's emotions and things like that. Like, what would you, on a lighter note, what would you recommend for these people who are going through it? Because I know lots of people listening to it now. I need something. Please let this have some type of hope or some light at the end of this tunnel. What would you recommend for that?
There is definitely hope and light, and I don't do lighter notes very easily, so I'll try my best.
Please do. Please do. Thank you. Yes.
I spend a lot of time in my head, which is why I do a lot of yoga, to bring myself back into my body, like we all do, right? Okay, on a lighter note, what do people need? Well, to your point, to Eugene's point, we need to be heard. So where do they go to get heard? Is the government willing to hear? I can't answer that. But is your friend willing to hear? Does your friend know the answers? Or do you just need to be heard? I suppose the thing is, what are you looking for? What do you need to be heard about? Do you just need to voice your voice heard? Or do you need advice? Do you need support?
Oh, you're not asking me this, are you?
No.
I'm good. I'm in a good space.
Okay.
I know. I was talking about for those who do need it. Like,
Yes.
so, what you asked, there's two questions. You got one or the other, or some both. Like,
They can call me.
Oh, okay.
They can call me.
Hit Mel up, you guys.
Yeah, hit me up. And ask me questions, and we can work through it together, because it's not that I know the answer. Ultimately, we all know the answer if we can go quiet enough to just listen.
Sometimes listening's it, right?
Sometimes listening is it. As well as having the voice heard, and in speaking your truth, the answer comes. It's complicated.
It is. It does get rather complicated. I mean, if you look at it all on a scale that everyone, like, there's two sides to everything. You got those on that side that want to be quiet, those on that side want to be quiet, and then you got those that are vocal. One other side, we're not delivering what they need to be. But right now, what I'm going to deliver is some of these tunes, and then we're going to come back, right? Because you got Sophie, and he play. She's not even rating. I don't know if you guys, I'm going to use this analogy, when you have the band is ready to play. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you guys are doing a good job warming it up. Because Gene took us from the early warm into prime time, right? He brought Matt in straight prime time, and we got Sophie is going to do the closer. But right now, you see this tune by Junior Reid?
Modern vampires of the city.
Audio check-in 1 2 1 3. You know what I'm saying? Who runs things? I just God Almighty, my good people. I was talking about it in 10 minutes of the hour. Oh, 10 o'clock right now this morning. God. Gene, you ain't talking more right now, bro. You're not. I'm just gonna let people know you're here. You know what I'm saying? They heard you. They hear you. They hear you. Yes, I've got Mel here as well as Sophie. I mean
Sophia.
Sophia. I know. That's what I was saying all this time, but she called you Sophie, so I was like, okay.
It's okay. I've known Mel for all of.
Oh, so she could call you that. She's like, my friends call me Sophie.
Well, I'll tell you why in a minute.
Sophia.
Sophia.
All right. Sorry, Sophia. I'm sorry. Also, see, I was telling you I was excited and scared at the same time. There's a reason I said that. I knew what I was talking about. I knew I was right. I was like, it's Sophia. I'm like, sorry, Sophia. Also in the health profession as well. So if you can just introduce yourself to my listeners and let them know. No, you're not?
Yes, good Grand Rising Bermuda. Thank you. I'm just looking at DJ Chubb. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And this is a very important time for Bermuda to listen, for the people to have a voice, and for us to be listened to. So first of all, I'm human. Second, I'm female. And when women gather in circles, a lot of power comes together and is generated. At the beginning of this situation, many women gathered in Bermuda, in this country. And Mel and I being part of that women's group. And just giving a heads up to Bermuda that there will be more women rising in this community. When women gather, the world heals a bit more. So as a woman, I've given birth 3 times. I took that upon myself to educate myself, to empower, to remember my power. I've always had the power to bring forth life, and I've remembered it. It was passed on through my ancestors, through my mother, through my grandmother. So I bring this to light is that when we are in charge of ourselves, when we become more responsible for ourselves, then we can help others. So at the beginning of this situation last year, I decided that I was going to get COVID. Yes.
I'm sorry, what now?
Yes, I decided that I was going to get it and to understand it from my perspective.
Okay.
Okay, so in December of 2020, I made sure I got it, and I did that by traveling into the UK at a time when the B117 variant was rampant there, and it was a body experience for me. People will probably say, "Oh, that was reckless," but no, that was actually quite empowering because I survived. And as a person who's been responsible for myself for a lifetime, I knew that I was going to do well and get through it because I know that my body could manage it, and my immune system was what it should be. So the family had it also. My family.
On purpose?
On purpose? Well, you know, when you live and you talk and you sleep together, you share everything. So yes, the family had it, and they were prepared well too because we live as a family and we take care of each other. So jump forward to returning to Bermuda. I knew when my symptoms were going to finish. So I'm recovered person 341. Okay, so we're only numbers in Bermuda, right? These people, those of us.
I was like, what, 341?
Exactly.
I was like, bears? Or, okay, no, you say, okay,
yeah.
I get it.
In the newspaper, when you are told that how many people have recovered, well, I'm number 341.
Oh.
Okay, you didn't know that.
Not
Not many people do.
So
there's 2,300 and something now of us. Anyway, so returning to Bermuda, I tested negative upon returning, and my husband tested positive, right? Whereas his pre-test was negative, and I knew I was going to be fine, so I came back. I was negative. Anyway, during the time of the quarantine that one needs to spend inside when you are living with somebody who is positive, and not having any symptoms, by the way, just positive, I took it upon myself, the responsibility to call around to find out how I could check to see if I've actually had antibodies. Like, I wanted to know what my body did to recover from this. So I reached out to my longtime family friend and exquisite health practitioner, Mel, and we came together in our online and discovered that an antibody test would be a good thing to look into. I called every lab in Bermuda, every single lab. I had 2 weeks on my hands. I am a doer. Every single lab said that they could not, not meaning that they weren't allowed to take blood, to perform antibody tests. They were not allowed because it would upset the government's plan when they were rolling out the experimental gene therapy shot. So I did find a way, because that's what creative people do who are interested in their own health. And I found that the hospital, KEMH, was the only lab that was allowed to do the T-cell antibody test. So took it upon myself and took the whole family there. when we were able to, and had Dr. Henry Dowling, who is a very amazing, open-minded, very supportive Bermudian medical practitioner. He allowed, or he enabled us to have this form that we took to the hospital. In any case, long story short, the T cells came back that we all had positive antibodies. And then we started to, people said, oh, well, those are going to run out, right? Those are going to just dwindle down. So I said, okay, well, let's go back in 3 months and check it again. Went back in April, checked it again, still there. So that's just taking charge, right? Also called the Bermuda Health Council during that 2 weeks quarantine, had a long talk with the gentleman there. Why, sir, are you not allowing the T cells antibody test to be performed in different labs? Same thing. Government will not allow that to happen.
And
so
that's to ask the question. So these are the words coming from
the officials in the Bermuda Health Council.
This is what they're saying.
Each lab. Yes, I've even I pick up the phone and I called the Department of Health and spoke to a surveillance officer and told her that I've had COVID. I'm number 341. Why aren't you paying attention to the recovereds? Mel and I called the Royal Gazette, spoke to Heather Wood. She was very interested to hear from a recovered person. And this is January. This is before the Royal Gazette posted the several other recovered people who had long COVID, right? And we're telling their stories from you better get the experimental gene therapy shot because you could get this long COVID situation. So we were told by the editor, Heather was told by the editor of the Royal Gazette, that the story of a recovered person taking responsibility for herself and her family was too alarmist, and they would not run the story, and this was back in January. So jump forward to today. Now we know that people who have had naturally occurring COVID and have survived are thriving. And we have the antibodies. And it is when in history have you ever had a come in contact with disease and survived it? When do you not have the antibodies, right? So the truth is not coming out. The media porn is not allowing people to hear the truth. We are going to gather. We are gathering. We have been gathering. And as Eugene said, there are going to be people who are not going to be as patient to wait. Okay? So there's warnings coming. There is going to be an uprising. Okay? So we feel it. And there's going to be an uplifting of people who are just going to take control for themselves. Been warned. Okay, now you're talking about a mother, right? And we are we with the help of you, we love you, but we do the work. We grow the child.
Yeah.
You help, right? We can't do it without you, but we do the work. We grow the child. We birth the child. We have a decision on how we birth that child. That's another conversation, and I've been working on that for many years, right? Women have still taken that into their own power, by the way. And it's underground here because it won't be allowed, right? We keep asking permission for people to have their births the way they want to have their births. But you know what? Women will find a way when they are empowered and remember their power, they will find a way to take control. And they have. And it's the same situation here. People will find a way and they are taking control for themselves, right? Not everybody, but we have to work on ourselves. I'm talking Eugene and Mel and myself and many others like us in Bermuda. We lead by example, as Eugene said a few minutes ago. So when we take charge and really take care of ourselves, other people will ask, well, what are you doing? And we share what we're doing. And that's how we grow as a community. So now they're talking, they, meaning the people who are not quite aware that you're messing with women and their babies. You are not messing with women and their babies. You are not going to give them an experimental gene therapy shot at age 12 to 15 in this country at all. Unless you don't care about your children. And I'm going to say that out there. Okay? So there are some people who are worried, they're fearful, and they will do everything to protect their children. But it's the same people that are worried and are not willing to take a deeper look at to what this could happen, what down the road is going to happen to their children. They may not be able to travel with you if they don't have the experimental gene therapy shot. They may not be able to be put into industrialized daycare, aka schools, if they don't have the gene therapy shot. Right? Women are the children's first teachers. I'll tell you what's happening. Many people are extracting their children from the educational system. And they will continue to do that until the only people who are left in the system are the people who want to abide by that system. But the people who are thinking, the people who are courageous, the people who are needing help, as Mel says, they're reaching out. There's a way to do it. There's a way to educate your children. I've unschooled 3 children. They are now thriving in other professions, and they're 17, 13, and 11. They are not held. Okay? Now, I'm not extremely wealthy financially, but I am extremely wealthy mentally, health-wise, and in my courage. Where do I get it from? Discipline, maybe the arts, maybe birthing my 3 children at home, unassisted. Yeah, maybe calling on my power.
Taking responsibility for
Taking
yourself.
responsibility.
Taking responsibility for yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so
that's where it starts.
there is a way, and we do not have to ask permission. We don't have to be an uprising unless you stop listening to us. There's going to be trouble. But there is a way for people to find their courage, reach out, gather, ask questions, and you will remember your power.
Mel, yes?
And let's start there to get rid of the fear. Because once we're in fear, we can't think straight.
Nope.
So we make decisions that are not right, because we're vulnerable and we're open to be led. So it takes us out of our center. It takes us away from this self-responsibility and this self-centeredness, being centered within oneself, to be able to be strong, to be able to be courageous, to be able to make good decisions. Yeah?
I agree.
Or bad decisions and learn lessons from them.
Learn lessons. That's the word we're going to finish with right now. We want to learn lessons. Yes, Gene, because I'm going to let you wrap it up now because we had my finish. Yes, Mel?
May I say just one last thing?
Yes.
Remember, let's remember, right? And we already know, but let's remember that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So how do we be in this world, but not of the world? Not to dwell in the material, in the external. We have to be in it, yes, because we're born here. We've come into our physical bodies. But when we go, none of that. That's just part of the ride. That's part of the experience. None of that goes with us. But on our spirit goes to the next place. So let's really kind of come into that if we choose to. If we want to put all our energy into our car and our house and our whatever, that's fine too. We have choices.
It's choices.
We have choices. But if we want to live a more balanced, a more centered, a more realistic, real being, if we're in ourselves, we're attached to ourselves, we're connected to ourselves, we're responsible for ourselves. Realistic is not being external to ourselves because we're unattached. We're disconnected. That's painful. Let's come home. Let's come home and be within ourselves. With all the mistakes and the ickiness and the disease and illness, we can have all of that, but we can bring it back and to learn from that. Everyone makes bad choices. But are we going to make them over and over and over?
Well, all depends on how good the pizza really tastes. You know what I'm saying?
Wow, yeah.
I'm gonna take another slice and another one. I know the carbs need to be counted right now, but yes, I'm gonna take another one. That's a bad choice.
And how's that indigestion?
I'm fine. That's fine. You know what I'm saying?
Because
Just
we
wash it
can
down
remedy
for a
it.
little ginger ale or
Yeah,
something.
right?
I'm just playing. I'm playing. Now we're gonna wrap this
No
up right
problem.
now, Gene.
Yeah.
Yes, my brother.
Give thanks.
Every time.
Yeah, and I really appreciate love this conversation, and I would just say that if you look at this overall, we're in a scenario where the few are setting directives for the many. This is not even a situation where you have a national leadership putting in mandates for a country. You have people who don't even live in countries, who have never even been to countries, putting mandates and regulations in place that they're asking people they don't know and don't understand to abide by. You know, there is an inherent disrespect in any efforts to force one way of thinking on people who, by virtue of the conversations we've had today, are more than capable of thinking for themselves. We have to honor and respect the intelligence that exists within our people. Short of that, we're going to find ourselves challenged, and we're going to find uprisings and pushbacks coming from people who will not settle for, right, whatever shortcomings with those who think they know everything, the things that they don't really know and understand. So let's come to a space where we're unifying, right? This is not about vaccinations. This is about collaboration. This is about listening. This is about understanding. And why are these things important? Because they're necessary if we want to heal. And notice I said if.
Operative word if.
Well
Give
said.
thanks.
Well said.
Give thanks
Yeah.
to the three of you this morning. Thank you for coming into Vibe 103. Your voices have been heard. I'm gonna tell you they've been heard this morning. I ain't gonna lie about that at all. But again, to Mel and Sophia.
It means wisdom. Sophie does not mean wisdom.
Okay.
Sophia
It just means
wisdom.
I'm just gonna leave it alone.
It's okay.
Yes, I'm just gonna leave it alone. Right now, people, I'm getting into the Sky Sports update this morning. Coming back in with some music, some juggling, just some vibes here on this Thursday. Keep it locked to the energy station we call Vibe 103. Yes, my people.
Vibe 103, Bermuda.